Okay, let's jump into this. Have you ever really thought about where faith comes from?
Mm.
I mean, there's this pretty common idea, right?
Mm-hmm. That salvation's the gift, but the faith part, that's our job, something we need to bring to the table.
Exactly. It sounds reasonable, almost. But today, in this deep dive, we're looking at some texts suggesting maybe faith itself is more gift than grit.
Right. And our goal here is really just to explore that, see if we can get some clarity, maybe find that aha moment without, getting lost in super heavy jargon.
So yeah, that common view, grace is free, but believing is what we do. It makes sense in a way.
It does appeal to our sense of, well, needing to do something, perhaps. But the texts we're considering today, they kind of push back on that.
They really do. Take John 6:29. Jesus says, "This is the work of God, that you believe on him whom he hath sent."
Whoa, hang on. The work of God is that we believe, not our work.
Yeah. See, it sort of flips the script on that whole faith is our contribution idea, doesn't it?
It absolutely challenges it. And then you look at Philippians 1.29, and it just builds on that.
What does that one say again?
It says, "For unto you it is given in the behalf of Christ, not only to believe on him, but also to suffer for his sake."
Given. It's right there. Believing is given. Just like the suffering, which nobody argues, is something we generate ourselves.
Precisely. So belief isn't presented as something we achieve through, I don't know, sheer intellect or willpower. It's framed as something received. We're enabled.
Okay, so enabled. And then there's Romans 12.3, which adds another layer about the amount of faith.
Right. According as God hath dealt to every man the measure of faith.
The measure of faith. So it's not even like everyone starts with the same capacity. God distributes it.
Seems to be the implication. Like you said, maybe some get a mustard seed's worth to start, others more, but the source is the same God dealing it out.
That makes sense of why some people seem to grasp it more readily than others, maybe.
It could be part of it.
Yeah.
And think about Romans 10.150. So then faith cometh by hearing, and hearing by the word of God.
Okay, so faith comes to us. It originates outside us through hearing the message.
Exactly. Hearing is the channel, the means. But not everyone who hears instantly believes, right?
True. So hearing alone isn't the whole story. Something has to happen for that hearing to turn into actual faith.
Which maybe points back to God enabling the belief. Like with Lydia in Acts 16, it says God opened her heart to pay attention to Paul's message.
Ah, right. It wasn't just Paul being persuasive. God did something internally in Lydia first. And what about that verse, 1 Corinthians 4.7?
Oh yeah, what hast thou that thou didst not receive? That's a pretty broad question.
It really is. It kind of suggests everything. Even the ability to respond positively is ultimately a gift.
So connecting this maybe to the parable of the talents. The master gives the talents different amounts, the responsibilities on what the servants do with what they're given.
The focus is the response, the stewardship, not generating the initial capital, so to speak. The talent or the faith was provided.
And faith can grow, like 2 Thessalonians 1.3 says, your faith groweth exceedingly. But that growth seems to build on the initial gift.
Which explains why the disciples pray in Luke 17.5, "Lord, increase our faith." If it was all up to them, why ask?
Exactly. You wouldn't ask someone to increase something you were entirely in control of producing yourself. It shows dependence.
So, pulling it all together, the picture emerging from these texts is, well, it's that faith isn't really our entrance fee for grace.
No, it seems more like faith is part of the grace package itself. From the very start, the ability to believe and even its growth.
And thinking about it that way, it kind of protects the idea of grace, doesn't it? If faith is our work, then grace starts to feel a bit like wages.
It can subtly shift it towards a transaction, yeah. I did my part, believing, so God has to do his. But if faith is a gift too...
Then it's all gift, start to finish. Which means all the credit, all the glory stays with God. For grace, faith, salvation, the whole thing.
It keeps the focus entirely on the giver.
So maybe a final thought for you listening. If even the capacity to believe, to have faith, is itself a gift, how does that change things for you?
Yeah, how does that shift your perspective? Maybe not just spiritually, but in how you view your own efforts versus reliance on, well, something beyond yourself in any area. Where's that line between receiving and responding? Something to definitely reflect on.